Hey guys, Zaman
And Christina
from Our Rich Journey. So we have been financially independent and retired early for almost 5 years. That is 5 years of not having to go to a job, to a 9 to 5, not going into the office, interacting with people, turning in projects, asking for leave off. I can go on and on about all of the things that go along with work. Well, we haven't had to do any of that. And a question that we get a lot of is, what do you miss about work? And you know what? There are some things that we want to share with you because people that are thinking about quitting their jobs once they achieve financial independence, there are some things that you need to be aware of that you may miss about working.
That's right. So on our channel, we talk about how amazing reaching financial independence is and how amazing it is to retire early and all of the benefits that come with that. But I think people also have to think realistically. Once they retire, their whole life can be very different. Not only do they not have their own 9 to 5, but they develop a different routine and a different structure. And so we want to give some realism to people that are thinking that maybe just retirement is the best thing in the world. We also want you to think about some potential pitfalls or things that you might miss after you retire. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video.
The first thing that you could potentially miss is social interaction. Getting together with your coworkers and talking about just fun stuff, going to happy hours, just hanging out with the friends that you've made at work.
And I think this is really important because I don't think people stop to think as much about how they develop relationships with their colleagues and coworkers, where you're seeing them every single day. You talk to them, you share their stories, and this can be harder for someone who is maybe an introvert. Once you get out of that workplace scenario where you are talking with everyone every day and you move into somewhere where you don't have any interaction with other people, it can be harder once you reach retirement.
And we really see people struggle with this that aren't able to put themselves out there, that aren't able to be social with other people outside of work. So this is something that you should be preparing yourself for. How are you going to make sure that you are still able to manufacture those social interactions? Are you going to join clubs? Are you going to just walk up to people on the street and introduce yourself? I mean, you really have to know yourself to figure out how you are going to make up for this.
Okay, let's talk about the second thing, which is routine and structure. When you are working, you have that steady routine, you have that structure, you know what is expected of you every single day, pretty much. But once you're retired, that routine and structure is entirely up to you. And you may lack that, especially during the initial phases of your early retirement.
And this is a big issue because people that don't have that routine or that structure, they can sometimes feel lost. And so you can find yourself in early retirement kind of bored or wondering what to do next. You know, this is one of the reasons why many people choose not to retire, because they wouldn't know what to do with their free time.
So I think one of the ways to really help deal with this issue is to prepare for your life in early retirement. So when you're normally working, you work from 9 to 5. And instead of having that structure for work, you can develop a 9 to 5 structure that you could have in early retirement. So maybe you like going to the gym. Maybe you take an art class or a dance class or a sports class. Maybe you go every day and you meet up with friends or you do volunteer work. There are so many different things that you can do in your day, and they can be structured so that you do them every day and it feels more of a routine as opposed to just sort of flailing around throughout the day and not feeling productive or structured. Now, one of the things that's so great about being in retirement is that you can change the structure of your routine. So for example, one of the things that we really love to do is to renovate homes. And we have done this here in Portugal. So when we are doing our renovations, our structures become more dedicated and detailed to renovation work. So 9 to 5, we are working on the bathroom, we are retiling, we're taking out cabinets. But again, that adds structure to our routine in early retirement. So the next thing that you may miss once you're retired is a sense of purpose. I think a lot of times when people are working, they have this sense that they're working towards something, they're contributing to something, and then when you hit retirement, you feel like, where is my purpose? And I think some of this can be resolved if you start focusing on things that you're passionate about in early retirement. So if you really enjoy working with people and interacting with kids, for example, maybe in early retirement, you can create a structure that involves volunteering with children. And I think one of the really important shifts that happens when you're thinking about your purpose in early retirement is when you are doing things like volunteer work, you're finding your purpose because that's what is drawn from you. You feel like you want to do it, you don't have to do it. Whereas opposed to when you're working, you're going to work 9 to 5, maybe you have a purpose there, but you're sort of forced to have that purpose because that's your role in your work. When you're retired and you're doing volunteer work and you're not required to do that, I think you can actually find a greater sense of purpose in that. So the next thing that you may miss from work is that financial stability. You know, when you're working, you typically have a steady routine paycheck that is coming in every other week or once a month. But once you retire and you're living off, for example, your real estate income or your stock portfolio, you may feel like you have less control over the development of that income as opposed to having that steady paycheck that's coming in that used to come in when you worked.
And this is absolutely normal to feel this type of insecurity. But you should also feel some faith in the fact that you've done your research and that you have decided to retire based off of a plan for how you are going to live off of those other income sources. And if you want to, just to make yourself feel better, you can send yourself a paycheck from your stock account or from your real estate holdings. You could have that money directed into your checking account, just like how your employer deposited your salary into your checking account. Just set up the same routine. Pay yourself every 2 weeks from your stock account or every 2 weeks from your real estate.
And I promise you, I really feel like when you first retire, there's more anxiety related to this idea that you're living off of your stock portfolio or your real estate and you don't have that paycheck. But as time goes on, you feel more comfortable with the process. You feel that you can rely more on pulling that money out as needed because, like Aman said, you have created this plan and this plan can work. But there is that anxiety when you first do it, and I think that's completely normal. But that anxiety gets reduced more after time.
And this brings us to the last thing that people usually miss when they retire early, or they think they're gonna miss it, and it's the benefits. Now, when you are at an employer, they pay for your health care, they may pay for your travel, they may send you off on educational endeavors. Well, you have to manufacture those things for yourself in early retirement. You have to acquire those same benefits as expenses in your budget. And this is something that we had to do for ourselves. And I can tell you from experience, I'd much rather be in control of my benefits than my employer. I don't want to have to ask my employer if I can go take a class here, or what medical insurance, or what doctor I can go to, or whether I can use my vacation, which is also a benefit. All of these benefits that you think you are going to miss when you leave your job, remember that those benefits came at a cost. Your hours, your employment. And so keep that in mind when you are on this early retirement journey. And so we've brought all of these things up as food for thought. But I can tell you from experience and from talking to many other early retirees that there's not a lot about work that they miss. They might have missed some things initially, but once you settle into this life of early retirement, this freedom, this ability to wake up every day and decide how you want to spend your 40 hours, it's an amazing feeling, and we encourage everyone to take that back. And so if you guys have liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and join the journey.